7-7. That was the vote count from ESPN experts when asked who they thought would win the series, the Dallas Mavericks or the OKC Thunder. When examining what this OKC Thunder team actually looks like right now, and to be honest, what they've looked like throughout the entire season, in my opinion, that vote should not have been a tie. And on top of that, of the people that voted the OKC Thunder to win the series, only one of them had them winning in less than 7 games. And after game 1, while it is just one game, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are now figuring out exactly how good this Thunder team actually is. And of course, we know this as they were the 1 seed, but according to some people, they were the worst 1 seed that they've ever seen in their entire life, which is, to be honest, a narrative that I'm not even gonna really entertain. But there were some people in my comment section and in my Twitter replies telling me that they wouldn't have been surprised if the OKC Thunder had gotten first rounded coming into this playoffs. It may have been their lack of national TV games, it may have been the lack of just general knowledge about this team in general, because they sort of just came out of nowhere. But if you had watched them throughout the year, you would understand that yes, once again, this OKC team is incredibly good at basketball, and it was on full display against the Dallas Mavericks in game 1, which I feel like this was a series that was a little bit anticipated, but obviously not in the most anticipated semifinal series in the West. We will get back to that series in a couple days, trust me. But coming into this series, I thought this was going to be a pretty interesting matchup when you took a look at just the overall firepower and the switchability of OKC's defense, meeting the duo of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, who also obviously have a really good team built around them as well. And right from the start, it was pretty clear that OKC was just going to try to get into the paint and try to create driving kick opportunities, as they are the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA. It's either them or Boston. That's kind of been their strategy all season. And it was very clear that the rim pressure from OKC was really getting to Dallas, especially in the second quarter, as the OKC Thunder had attempted 22 free throws in the first half, 11 of them coming from SGA, 6 of them from J-Dub. And so it was pretty difficult for Dallas to be able to really stop anything in the first half, but they were still able to keep the game close. But because they were getting beat so much off of these dribble drives in the first half, Dallas had decided to go to a zone in the third quarter, which was probably the decision that would end up burying them in this game, because they were so concerned about having guys like SGA and J-Dub and even Josh Giddey to an extent getting downhill. Chet Holmgren was driving a lot in this game as well. They were so concerned about those guys being able to get downhill because the main front court defenders, Luka Doncic, does not look good, and we'll talk about that later. Kyrie Irving, never been a defender in his career, which was sort of a concern that some people had for the Dallas Mavericks coming into the series, was how well were they going to be able to stop dribble penetration, which this OKC team thrives off of. And them going to a zone really worked to create more looks for the Thunder. But also on the other hand, Dallas just does not have the personnel to be able to guard everybody on this team, or at least everybody that they need to be able to defend. There was a play that I'm thinking of. It was sort of late in the third quarter when OKC was making their run. Shea was isolating left wing Derrick Jones Jr. as the primary defender. He was on him for a lot of possessions in game 1, as was PJ Washington, but he was isolating, and Daniel Gafford was sort of shading off of Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe is spotting up at the Paycom Center logo, but it just doesn't even matter. Shea kind of gets inside the 3-point line, starts sizing up like he's about to go by, so Daniel Gafford is just prepared for that drive, but it's too late. Daniel Gafford is now too low to be able to recover to Isaiah, and I mean, this still isn't really a bad contest. That's just too much room for a shooter like him. And there was also, I believe, one of the next plays, or possibly the very next play after that, Shea was on the fast break and he made a layup that I can't even explain. That's just the type of stuff that he's been doing, and I don't think that Dallas is ever gonna have an answer for this, at least not in this series. They just simply don't have the personnel, and on top of that, they just don't have the firepower to be able to keep up with this. The Thunder started the game 5 for 20 from 3. They made 11 of their next 15 3-pointers, and a lot of them were wide open. SGA finished with 29 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, and it didn't really feel like it because he was getting to the line a bunch, especially in the first half, but he did really start getting his shot going in the second. He hit a couple step back threes, which we're used to seeing from him. He shot, I believe, 39% on step back threes in the regular season, so so that's nothing out of the ordinary. Josh Giddey was a non-factor on offense once again. That's not really noteworthy at this point. You kind of expect that. Jalen Williams was also a big factor in OKC being able to turn the game around. He started out 2 for 11 from the field and hit all 4 of his shots in the fourth quarter, including 2 3-pointers. This dude, like I said it in the Shea video that I made a couple months ago, I think. The improvement of J-Dub this season has also been a big factor in them becoming the 1 seed in the Western Conference, as well as just having Chet Holmgren back from injury. But even just going beyond that, a bunch of Thunder players had really solid games. Like there are 10 Thunder players that Mark Dagnall is playing on any given night in the playoffs. Like most teams at this point are running 7 or 8 man rotations. The Thunder ran basically a 10-man rotation in game 1. The main dudes off the bench, Jalen Williams, Jay Will, Isaiah Joe, Gordon Hayward, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, they have been really good, especially defensively. Aaron Wiggins had 16 points, was 5 for 7 in 23 minutes. Like the Dallas Mavericks, while they do have a lot of talent and they do have a lot of defensive pieces, they just don't have, like, it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to stop all of this. And I know, again, it's only game 1. I'm just saying that's not something that's really going to be able to be fixed throughout the course of a playoff series. But also going over to Dallas, this is just going to be a really tough series for them because of just everything that I've said on OKC side of things, but also with Luka Doncic just not looking like Luka Doncic. Ever since that injury in the middle of the Clippers series, he just has not been moving as well. Even though he's not really known for being a shifty player, he's actually famously one of the slowest players in the league that still is able to get to any spot he wants on the floor. But even then, like the fact that he has a reputation for being a slower, more methodical player, and he looks even slower than normal right now is very concerning. Ever since that injury, he's been settling for a lot more threes, even though he took more threes in the regular season this year. He took, I believe, 10 a game. There are times when he's settling for threes and settling for jump shots when he doesn't even really need to be, like simply because he can't really move all that well, or as well as we're used to seeing from him. Kyrie Irving had a pretty underwhelming game considering the circumstances. He only took 14 shots. He was 7 for 14, 50%, 3 for 4 from 3 for 20 points. But on nights like this, when Luka is clearly struggling from the field, although you do want to see him maybe trying to get in rhythm, especially in the second half, there should be times where he decides to be more aggressive when he sees Luka struggling like how he did. And so I think that's going to be a theme throughout the series going forward, is seeing a little bit more of Kyrie, because he was able to get into the middle of the OKC defense a lot in game 1, and it looked pretty effortless. It looked like typical Kyrie Irving. And so there wasn't really a question of if he was able to do it or not. It was just a matter of just how much he was doing it. So interested to see how Kyrie Irving is going forward. Daniel Gafford had a crazy game, 16 points, 11 rebounds, 5 blocks, one of those being a block on a 3-pointer, I believe in the fourth quarter. But he was having a lot of trouble inside the paint, especially with finishing his twos, which is something that you're not really used to saying with Daniel Gafford, with that crazy field goal streak he had earlier this season. But the OKC length was really prevalent, and you could see it in just the types of shots that Dallas as a whole was able to get. And that's another factor that I think is going to favor OKC in the series, is the length, and more importantly, the rebounding, because the OKC Thunder had 16 offensive rebounds today. They out-rebounded the Dallas Mavericks as a team 52-39. They were plus 13 on the boards. Like almost everybody on the roster is just going after every single rebound. Lou Dort had 4, J-Dub had 5, Chet had 7, Shea had 9, Jay Will had 9 in 16 minutes. Aaron Wiggins had 5. Like Dallas just got outplayed pretty much in every aspect of basketball. Now, of course, that could change as the series goes on, but as I said before, I feel like this is more of just a personnel issue, because like I mentioned, OKC has 10 guys that can be contributors in high leverage playoff minutes, and with Luka being hobbled, that's just going to make their job even easier, because I mean, he already wasn't a spectacular defender before. He's improved over the years, but after this injury, he's just not what we saw in those first two games, especially game 2 against the Clippers. And so I'm not sure how Dallas is going to be able to overcome that. I have the OKC Thunder winning the series in either 5 or 6 games, depending on whether or not they win game 2 as well, but we will revisit this series if anything should change. But a series that needs to change quickly for a certain team is the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. I recently made a video talking about game 1. I haven't made a video about game 2 yet, and I probably won't just because it's already passed. But pretty much everything that I said in that video should apply to game 2. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can watch that right here. But with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new, hit the bell to be notified when I upload, comment down below what you want to see next, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.